So we're going to go into the first cognitive distortion, which if I were king of the world, that would make it illegal to use it because it is only accurate in two places. It's 100% accurate in math and in physics. So if I go, okay, if I add one of these and another one, I should have two. So should is appropriate. When water reaches a certain temperature, it should freeze or become water, okay? So in math and physics, shoulds are important. Now, some people think that shoulds is rightfully ought to be regarding morality, that we should be kind to others, we should be compassionate, we should be gentle in our treatment of other people. However, morality shifts. Like, think about this. In Germany during the 40s, in order to be a good citizen and follow the laws of the country, you should turn in any Jews that you know about. So I don't think shoulds are appropriate, fit too well with morality. But in math and physics, that's where they're most appropriate. But we take that word and we use it in other places. And here's the outcome of it. If you'll take the time to draw a little continuum on your paper, and then put a little round thing there in the middle of the continuum, okay? Now, if we take a should and we direct it at others, the emotions that are going to be generated by that are going to be feelings of anger, feelings of resentment, and out of anger and resentment comes entitlement, okay? So I think this is where child abuse comes from. It's a major factor in it. I think this cognitive distortion is also very, very prominent in domestic violence. So if I'm working with a perpetrator of domestic violence, being court-ordered by Archie to get treatment, and I ask him, okay, so you punched out your wife, your kids were watching, what in the heck triggered that? What was that about? And without fail, almost inevitably, the first words out of their mouth are going to be, well, she should have, and then fill in the blank. She should have been home on time. She should have had dinner on the table. She should have, and that should drives anger, resentment, and then entitlement. So now I'm entitled to be cruel to you. I'm entitled to be mean to you. I'm entitled to be disrespectful to you because you should have done what I expected you to do, okay? Flip that around, and the other way it goes is if a should is directed at the self. I should have been smarter. I should have known better. I should have. Just fill in the blank. You pick any one of them. The emotions that are generated by that cognitive distortion alone create shame and guilt and feelings of inadequacy. So people that have a should in their thinking teeter-totter back and forth on that continuum from anger and resentment towards others and feelings of shame and guilt. So people would very often ask me when I was doing trainings, well, if should isn't appropriate, what is? And I would tell them the most appropriate word is prefer. I would prefer that people are kind. Doesn't mean that they should be. What we do is we take our preferences, what we would prefer, and we turn them into Jehovian mandates, like from God. And we're not gods, but when we start thinking in should, in terms of shoulds, those are the two outcomes. So I would encourage people to eliminate should from their thinking altogether and simply go with prefer. Now, I know I talked about this one other time, but I wanted to talk about it again because that distortion, that one single cognitive distortion, I think is a prime contributor to child abuse and to domestic violence. And we teeter-totter back and forth between anger and resentment at others and feelings of shame and guilt and inadequacy. Yes, please. Christine.
So if the anger and resentment lead to entitlement, what do the shame and inadequacy lead to towards self?
They bring us down low. It's like, feeling badly about ourselves. I should have done that, and then we go to meaning. I should have done that, and I didn't. That means what? Well, generally it means I'm a failure. It means I'm a bad person. It means, so the meaning that's attached to that is more, it can adds to the cognitive distortion. But that was a great question, and thank you for it. So I would encourage all of you to really think about this one, and think about it when you find yourself using a should. If it isn't about the turkey's been in the oven for 3 hours at 350 degrees, it should be done by now. But when you're directing a should at other people, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be anger and resentment. And the reason I hate this one so much, this cognitive distortion, is because I truly believe my experience has been in 42 years of working with people, that is a major cause of domestic violence, and not a cause, a contributor to domestic violence and to child abuse. So the mom that comes home from a hard day, she's a single mom, the house isn't cleaned up, and she walks in and says to the kids, damn it, you should have had that house cleaned up, you should have had the dishes done, you should have had this done. Well, the kids pick up that pretty readily. So now they become older and they're going, you should buy me a car. Tommy has a car. You should. So it kind of backfooted, and it starts a vicious cycle. And I would really, really seriously encourage people to use the word prefer. Yes, Archie, please.
With the domestic violence and the should, haven't you found that the use of the word should in that context is simply an excuse or a cover-up for doing the act and hide something else?
Yeah, that's that entitlement that I'm talking about. You know, if you should have done something and you didn't, you violated my Jehovian mandate. And now I have the right to feel angry and bitter and resentful, and now I'm entitled to think badly of you or treat you very badly. We can't really treat people badly without having a justification for it. You know, otherwise we'd have to look at ourselves like, really, I mean, what kind of a person as I am? I beat the hell out of my kid with a belt. But after all, he should have, and then fill in the blank. So it's really a struggle to get rid of that, but I would encourage you to begin working at getting rid of it. Yes, please.
You're reminding me, I heard a really interesting podcast about, it's a country in Asia, and in their language, I can't remember if it was Thailand or Nepal, but in their language, it's very simple grammar, and they don't have should, they don't have like the crazy verb stuff, and they really don't have a concept of guilt or remorse like the way we do in our culture. And they said they think it's based on the language, which I thought was fascinating.
Absolutely, because our thoughts create our feeling reality. And so we need to be really careful about our thoughts being precise. And you'll see this as we go through some of the other cognitive distortions. There's not precision in it. So you can also do this. It would have been preferable to replace should. You can use would have been in a lot of places. It would have been honorable. It would have been kind. It would have been effective. It would have been, rather than I should or they should. Just do your best to see if you can eliminate it altogether and be more precise. We don't get very angry when our preferences are violated. But when our preferences become Jehovian mandates, we can really get pissed off and have righteous anger towards other people. So, okay, so that's the shoulds.